We often look to shifting continents or the advance of glaciers to explain the path of human history. But our journey was also dictated by a microscopic typo in our DNA. Deep within the frozen expanse of Western Siberia, paleoanthropologists discovered the remains of the Ust-Ishim man. At 45,000 years old, his femur contained the earliest evidence of a genetic mutation that would eventually redefine the biology of an entire continent. This map illustrates the spread of that singular mutation. Migrating out of Siberia, it traveled with early humans to the caves of Beijing, pushed across the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas, and crossed the Korean peninsula into the Japanese archipelago with the Yayoi people. This microscopic passenger quietly conquered continents. It altered the populations it touched, thousands of years before the invention of the tools needed to observe it. The physical changes caused by this mutation were so distinct that scholars documented them without knowing genetics existed. They recognized a clear physical dichotomy in human populations. In 1590, the Ming Dynasty pharmacologist Li Shizhen published the Benkao Gongmu. Within its pages, he meticulously categorized human earwax, known as Renner Sai, proving that ancient medicine had formalized the documentation of these body substances centuries ago. Ancient East Asian medicine utilized these differing physical traits in daily practice. They could observe the biological results, but the engine driving those differences remained hidden. Humanity possessed a record of these effects long before modern science uncovered the specific cellular breakdown behind them. The formal inquiry began in the 1930s, when Japanese physical anthropologists mapped the correlation between earwax consistency and body odor. By 1962, research proved these linked traits followed simple Mendelian genetic inheritance, where a single gene determines the physical outcome. The ABCC11 gene encodes a pump moving lipids out. Thousands of years ago, a guanine base mutated to adenine, forcing the new pump to misfold. Proteasomes instantly recognize the defect, shredding the protein before it reaches the membrane. The transport function is entirely lost. This loss of function creates two results. The ear canal is deprived of moisture-retaining lipids, creating a dry, flaky earwax. Simultaneously, underarm bacteria are starved of their food source. The result is an entirely odorless human. A genetic error that destroys a cellular function became the standard phenotype for billions of people. This map visualizes the rapid takeover of this broken gene across East Asia. The crimson shading represents a selection coefficient of 0.01. In evolutionary mathematics, this is an extreme survival advantage, indicating that individuals with this mutation were significantly more likely to thrive. The prevailing explanation is the cold adaptation hypothesis. In sub-zero environments, the heavy sweating promoted by the ancestral gene leads to rapid heat loss. Disabling that pump prevented frostbite, providing a critical advantage in the Siberian tundra. A moment of wonder. Some researchers propose a theory of chemical camouflage. Early humans were hunted by apex predators reliant on smell. The genetic elimination of body odor may have rendered these early populations invisible to the beasts of the Pleistocene. However, the mutation creates a modern contradiction in oncology. In Asian cohorts, the ancestral gene is strongly linked to increased breast cancer risk. Yet when tested against Western populations, that correlation disappears entirely. Ancient survival created a web of population-specific architectures that continue to complicate modern science. We are observing pleiotropy, a phenomenon where one genetic alteration silently controls multiple unrelated systems in the body. Because mammary glands and sweat glands share a similar architecture, mothers with the mutation suffer a deficit in producing colostrum. Colostrum is the nutrient-dense first milk that provides infants with their early immunity. To survive the ancient cold, evolution tolerated a penalty against the immune defense of newborns. This compromise extends into modern pharmacology. cancer cells will actively hijack the healthy version of the ABCC11 pump to survive. The tumor rapidly jettisons chemotherapy molecules out of the cell before the medicine can take effect. A person's earwax type acts as a visible clinical biomarker. It predicts whether a tumor possesses the biological hardware needed to resist life-saving treatment. This genetic typo even dictates modern commerce. The global deodorant industry is valued at $32 billion. In the United States alone, consumers spend over $12 billion annually on these products. But in South Korea, nearly 99.994% of the population carries the mutation. Body odor is biologically impossible, rendering the deodorant market entirely obsolete. A microscopic typo successfully repelled a multi-billion-dollar global industry. The records of our journey are not carved into monuments. They are hidden in the errors of our biology.